All right. So hello, welcome everyone to this workshop, Production Design for Indie Horror with AK Espada. Thank you all for coming on this Sunday noon, evening, whatnot. So let me introduce you to AK Espada first. AK Espada is a writer, director, production designer, and painter whose films have screened at the American Cinematheque in Los Angeles and the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Her feature script, This Is Our Home, was an inaugural recipient of the Sundance Horror Fellowship. Congrats. Recent short films include This Is Our Home, winner of an Audience Award at Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, and official selection on Short of the Week, and I Could Just Die and That Would Be All Right, winner of the Minerva Award at FilmQuest, and selected for Future of Film as Female Production Grant, and we also showed it at our most recent festival. And also we showed the promotion from 2022, I believe, which we also really love of yours. When she's not making her own projects, AK is a proud member of IATSE 479 as a scenic painter, where she has had the opportunity to work on projects such as Creed 2 and Haunted Mansion. All right, take it away, AK.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all here. This is exciting. So I wanted to do this workshop for a few different reasons. One, working in the art department I've been working in the art department in different roles in film for about 7 years now. And one thing that I've noticed is that even directors who are working on anything from like a tier 0 union project to like something very indie to all the way to the majors, a lot of times don't really understand what all of our roles are, which means that they don't understand how to communicate with us and how to ask for things and who to ask for things. And then also just because I've been production designing my own projects or working with like one production designer on one of my shorts, a very small skeleton crew type thing for many years. And I think sometimes people get really intimidated by the idea of doing production design on their projects. So they just kind of don't do very much, but it's really not intimidating because all it is just being intentional about the things that you're showing. And since you're being so intentional anyway about all of the things that the camera is doing and that the lighting is doing, you might as well think about this part too, because it's one of the ways that I think you can add your own very specific flavor and tone to your film that is going to set it apart from everything else. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And here we go. Start it from here. Now, I'm going to be trying to get through a few different sections of this, the first being kind of an overview of production design and the art department, and some examples of production design and how you can achieve different sets for your film, how you can turn what you're using as a set into an actual set. And then also I'll go into one of the most important parts of pre-production when it comes to the look of your film, which is pitch decks / lookbooks, which are often pretty similar, but you can tailor them to whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to get financing, you would tailor it into a pitch deck where somebody's going to be looking at it and it gives them an overview of the feel of your film. And if you want a lookbook, this might be more for communicating with your art department or with your DP or with whoever you feel that you need to visually communicate with on your film. And then, I'm going to try to take a couple questions if there are any at the end of each section, but if we're kind of running behind, we can just do that at the end. So just getting started. What can production design do for your film? Well, I think it's one of the most important parts of storytelling. I really like using world building to not just tell us stuff about the world in a way that's more impressive and impactful than expository dialogue, but also you can tell a lot about a character. You can tell a lot about people's relationships with each other through the world that they live in. And all of the images that I'm using, I've lost The Shining. This is from The Shining. There's a lot of things that you can do when you're low on a budget, one of which is like patterns, textures. Every image that I'm using, I'm trying to convey how you can get a lot out of what you're doing through one detail, here being the carpet, obviously, that is extremely iconic and memorable. Like you don't need everything to be overly designed. You don't need to spend a ton of money and time if you can just get one detail. You know, I think that there are other things, like besides just setting your film apart and giving it its own particular flavor. I mean, it's going to look more interesting if you put a lot of thought into the design of the image in this way. Like I said, you can give a lot of exposition for characters and story in a more effective way. But then also, you're going to be working with a lot of departments. When you're doing production design or when you're the director, you've got to remember that this everything the camera sees is production design. And the lighting, the camera work, those all play into each other, and you're working together to make those things blend. And so whether you're working with a full art department or you're working with like a solo production designer, you have a friend who's signed on to work on your short film, and maybe they have like one assistant or something, so it's very small, or whether you're just doing it all yourself, you're making a short and you don't have the money to hire anyone, you need to do it yourself. Hopefully there will be some ideas in here that can help you. So let's take a look at kind of an overview of the art department. This is going to be Theirs is not a comprehensive list by no means, of art department roles, but this can maybe kind of give you an idea of how huge this department is and how many people come together, to make things happen. So right up top, we have the production designer. They're the person that's going to be overseeing everything, and kind of not exactly like beneath them, but more their right-hand person is the set decorator. So this is the person who's in charge of the set decoration department. And that is everything that is on the set: tables, chairs, the wall hangings, the lights, the practical lights. They're going to be working with grip and electric to make sure that these practical lights are motivating the other lights that are on set. That is handled by the set decorator. And you have set deck buyers. They're the ones that are going around, they get the information from the set decorator. They go around to prop houses. They go to thrift stores. They buy things online, like pulling all the things, selecting them, pulling them all together to put on the set. Set deck coordinator is like scheduling everything, making sure that the department is running correctly. Very, very difficult and demanding job. The lead person is in charge of all of the dressers. So the set dressers are the people who take the stuff that the buyers purchase or rent and actually decorate the set with it according to what the decorator wants. And the gang bosses are like, you have like a set of set dressers. So you have like 6 set dressers working on this set, and they have a gang boss who's in charge of them. And then you have 6 set dressers working over here. And then, there's a set deck PA in that office. Then you got the art department. It's a little confusing too, because like colloquially, all of this is referred to as the art department. But if you're like working in the set deck department, or if you're working in another one of these departments and you talk about art department, you're talking about these people, the art directors. On a big show, there are often several of them. And there's a senior art director who kind of presides over all of them. There are the set designers and the drafters, like the people who are actually designing the sets, like architects. There's the graphic designer, the person that's making all the graphics that go on the sets, whether it's signs, newspapers, book covers. And then we have a coordinator here too. Again, very demanding and difficult job. Just making sure that everything's running. Then we go over to construction. The construction coordinator is actually kind of like on a level more like right directly under the art director. So the art directors are the ones that are saying, okay, that we're interpreting what the production designer wants, and looking at things that like these designs that have been drafted up, and we are going to make it happen. We are going to do the builds. So they oversee that. The construction coordinator oversees everyone who is building things. So that's the foreman of the construction department and the foreman of the scenic department, the scenic charge, who is in charge of like all of the paint and the wallpapering and the aging. And honestly, it's really hard to explain that. This is what my job is. I am down here as a scenic. So say we come into a set that's been built, and it's often going to be just like bare plywood walls, or it's going to be sculpted out of white foam. and we come in and make it look like something. So we would come in and make it look like marble or wood or metal, or if it's a big monster, we make it look like this big inside of a monster's belly or something. Like, we all kind of take on these very niche roles to come together and make this thing happen. And the person that oversees all that is the art director, taking instruction from the production designer. Then we have other departments like special effects. They come in and it's kind of different on every show. Like on shows that have a lot of big special effects stuff, they'll often be in charge of very specific things. Like, say it's, the show The Last of Us, the special effects people probably were coming in and adding like vines that they'd created to everything. They often handle like blood and anything like latex related, but we work hand in hand with them as scenics to do that too. Picture cars. Every car on a set is very specific, and it may be rented or purchased, and Picture Cars is in charge of that. And then down here, we've got prop master, like the props department, which putting it down here, I did not mean to say that they are beneath all of these people. Like, obviously it's kind of scattered around on here because there's not a very clear hierarchy. Depending on the show, it's really what is the most important here. And props is kind of their own department that is overseen by the production designer. But just to be very clear, so that you know this for the future, everything that the actors touch and interact with is props. So, oh, sorry, my cat is behind here doing something weird. So say you have a set and there's people eating at a dinner table. Now, they are sitting at the table, but likely the table and the chairs is set deck. Everything that's behind them that they're not touching on the walls, on the countertops, is set deck. Their forks and plates may be set deck. It's kind of like there's a little bit of overlap between them and props. The food is props. If they're wearing rings, that's usually props. If they're wearing glasses, that's usually props. But then everything else that they're wearing is wardrobe. It all gets a little bit intermingled, and it's sometimes different on every show, but you kind of have to, depending on where you are in the union structure, where you are in the world, it's going to be a little bit different. Oh, I have a chat thing. Oh, hi. So yeah, in the props department, a lot of these people end up being on set. The prop master, the assistant prop master, and the prop assists. They're on set interacting with the actors, getting everything taken care of, like bringing them things, taking them back, making sure that they don't walk off set with them. And then the other on-set people we have here are the on-set dressers. The set dressers are the ones that come in and they dress everything, as we said before, with all of the decoration. The on-set dressers are the representatives of the set deck department on set. So if things need to be moved, whether it's just like moving a table back and forth over and over again all day, or whether it's like they come in, the director says, I don't like any of this, redo it. They got to redo it. We've got on-set greens. So the greens department, which I'm not even sure I put down on here, is responsible for greenery. Whether that's like out the window, we got to see some silk trees or some real trees. Whether you're working outside and the director's like, I don't like the way that all of these vines look, get rid of them. That's what they're in charge of. On-set construction, taking apart flats, taking out plugs in the wall so that the camera can shoot through it. Anything that breaks on set, they got to fix it in a hurry. On-set scenic, that's also a job that I've done a lot, where you're just responsible for all of the paint effects on set. So, there's a lot of people bumping into things and moving gear around all of the time. So they might put a huge scratch in a wall that it took people 2 weeks to make. You got to fix that. You also have to, a lot of the job is honestly cutting down shine on things. So the DP will be like, oh, this is too shiny. You got to run in there and in 10 seconds fix it. Oh, this monitor we want to do something with VFX in it in post. Run in there, put a vinyl on it in like 10 seconds. You got to be fast. Same thing for on-set special effects. They'll often be doing things with blood or with fans and with, the haze, like the atmosphere that fills the set to help distribute the light. And if you've ever seen something that has like beams of light streaming in, That's due to the atmosphere. They put a bunch of haze from these like little fog machines out. So usually on-set special effects will handle that. And there's also a difference between like haze, atmosphere, and fog, because fog is like thicker and hangs. And they do all kinds of cool things with like tubes of death, they call them, where they like run a tube through the set and it spews fog out. And then we've got on-set picture cars, obviously. Those are the people that end up like driving the cars around, parking them, putting them where they need to be, working with any background people who are going to be driving the cars for the scene. And it's a lot of license plate stuff. I often end up having to age license plates for them so that they don't look brand new. So all of these people work together and create the art department. And this is just a total overview. There's hundreds of people in this department. So moving on. Let's look at some different examples of production design. So this is from The Shape of Water. This is, I think when people think of production design, this is like a pretty classic idea. We've got so many different departments coming together to make this. The first department that would come in, because this is definitely like a built set from what I gather from this, it looks like some, construction came in here, the carpenters and the welders, they came in and built the set. And then next, the scenic department, or probably plasterers came in and did all of this beautiful job up here. And then the scenic department came in and did the wallpaper and stained the floor and probably did like a faux wood grain on it. This may or may not be real wood. I mean, real nice wood. It may just be like plywood that they cut. This could be plaster. This could be a plaster floor that was cut and then made to look like faux wood grain. After they finished all of that, they came in and probably aged these windows as well. Well, obviously they aged these windows, they aged everything. There's an incredible amount of aging happening on this set. Then set deck came in and they put the table in and they put the stuff on the table and they put this over here and they added things. They added life layer to make it look lived in. And then scenic probably came back and did a dust age over everything, like sprayed an age to make everything look like it's been in this room for a long time together. Again, just lots and lots and lots of departments coming in, and this set probably took weeks to months to put together. Now, then we've got something like this, which is from The Last of Us. And from what I'm interpreting here, this is a VFX married to art department shot. So this has obviously been designed by the art department, and then VFX probably went in and created this image. This was likely shot on a blue screen or shot outside, and then they rotoscoped her out and put it in. And this is something that if you have any connections to VFX artists who are interested in displaying their work, this is the kind of thing that you could do. This is just ideas. It's like we go from this like very, very, this cost a lot to make this big set, to something on a ginormous TV show that cost a lot to make too, but it's something that, if you have those kinds of connections, that does happen on short films, where it's like you can kind of bring out each other's talents, work together, and make something that looks very, very impressive. And then we go to another shot from The Last of Us. This is just a corner. There's a lot going on in this corner. I mean, like someone like special effects or a completely separate company made these vine things, these like fungus things, put that on the wall, age the wall. You get a lot of production value out of that. And it's just a corner. Like you don't have to show everything. And this is lit by like a flashlight. So that's another example of working together with the lighting to make something that feels like it's got a lot larger than it is. And if you work together with the lighting so that the rest of the place is lit dark, that's you show this as a hero spot. That's an option of something you can do. This is from the movie 1001, and I just always found this a very striking image. You can find production design in the wild that you don't have to touch. Like this is just a building. And the things that I will usually look for when looking for things out in the wild that I might be able to use would be texture, color. The repetition of the windows really feels, it kind of draws you in. And like, then obviously the way that they shot it from this very interesting low angle, it allows us to see so much more of the building and it makes it feel really dynamic. Here's something from Midsommar. This is just outside. You get all the texture of the leaves. It pulls you towards the center, this place where they're exiting. There's a lot happening here visually, and you don't need to do anything except find an area of the forest that looks interesting. So there's a lot of options. Just going outside, looking around, seeing like, what is nature production design for me that I could use? This is from Us, another example of like using something around you. This is all lit in the background. It looks interesting at night. You can just light your actor. And obviously this is a ginormous movie that had a huge budget, but there is a version of this that can be done on a micro budget where you just light your actor, you take very minimal equipment out there, and you make sure that whatever's behind them is interesting. And then also something else that they did in this movie, this is just a prop and a cool t-shirt and lighting. And if you can find areas outside that look interesting and you can just put your actor in front of them and let like the prop and the wardrobe tell the story, that's another way of tying all of that in. And again, giant multi-million-dollar film, they probably had so much lighting equipment out there. It was probably a very expensive day, but this can be scaled down. And the most important thing here is that you're kind of letting the prop tell the story. So moving on to, I'm going to do like an overview of some bedrooms in films, because bedrooms are a place where you can tell a lot about a character. And I'm going to just open it up to you guys and say, looking at this, what can you tell about this character? I think I have to come out of this actually to answer.
Yeah, if people want to participate, you can just raise your hands and
Oh, yes.
on your video and audio. Now's the time. Or write in the chat as well.
Yeah, I can't see the, wait, yes, I can. Yeah, she does like Fall Out Boy. But if we dig a little bit deeper, what do you think that says about her, that she's really into Fall Out Boy?
Kat, would you like to turn on your video and ask?
Me?
No, Kat is now answering the queue.
Hello. Well, I was gonna say it's very girly, and sort of teenagery and very feminine as well, with like the pink everywhere. And yeah, very boy-centric, which is sort of her focus because she eats them. So it's like kind of a twist on like desire, like wanting them, but wanting them like viscerally.
Definitely. Yeah, I really like that it's that kind of brings that in, the element of that from the movie, that she does eat boys. But I also like what you said about like it's girly and it's, I mean, look at the pillows. Like this is her childhood bedroom, obviously. That pillow, she's probably had those since she was a little girl. This wallpaper looks like probably she didn't pick that out herself. It's been there for a long time. All of this stuff around her, like the bed, the lamps, does look like an adult chose them. But then all of the stuff that she has added, the cutouts, the pictures, everything, that shows who she is now. She's a teenager. She's into Fall Out Boy. She's into these, all of these different little bands. And like you said, all of the boys that are all around her. Somebody said she's got a photo of herself on the bedside table. Yeah, she does. Clearly, you know, into looking at herself, and that's okay. I can't tell exactly who that is, might be her too. But yeah, all of this stuff kind of comes together to tell the story of someone who is still living in their childhood bedroom, but has started to create a persona of her own. Suburban bedroom too, agreed. Yes, it definitely looks like upper middle class. It's very, you know, the things are very nice. Everything's kind of matchy, except, you know, we've got two different bedside tables there. I don't really know what that says. It could be, if we could see it a little bit better, it could be like this bedside table on the right. The white one has always been there since she was a child, and they had to add a new one because she's got so much stuff under there. There's a lot that can be said, and it's like when you watch the movie, you absorb this in like a second and you don't really think that much about it a lot of the time, but it does its job. Whereas, let's see, the next one. Gotta have so many things pulled up. So then we got this one, which is it's the exact same view, totally different vibe, obviously. What would you say you can tell about this person that's different from the other person? Yeah, individual controls their environment. Yeah, the picture frames are extremely lined up, perfectly measured out. This person did not just hang them haphazardly like the other things were hung. But we do have this little guy over here, psychotic setup going on over here. Why does she have an empty jewelry holder? Let's see, I can't even see it because of this, but yeah, just an empty jewelry holder over there. Whoops. And we've got her little lion over here. So it's like, this could very well also be her childhood bedroom, but everything is so much more adult looking. Like, was this her bedding when she was a child? Like, or is she, yeah, very traditional bed. Is she just staying in the guest room, but then she's got all these pictures hanging up? And if you've seen the movie, obviously that tells its own story. All of these people that she's brought home and has allowed terrible things to happen to them. And then we've got her nice little stuffed lion over in the corner, very cute. If we move on to this one from Hereditary. So we can obviously tell the same types of things about well, this is a little bit different. It's much darker. You can't tell as much, but it, twin bed, probably a child, things hanging from the ceilings. But what I wanted to talk about here, yes, and the angles of the walls here is something I wanted to talk about too, because like that's something when you're looking at locations, yes, very sad and lonely. When you're looking at locations, another thing that you want to look at is just like, what is the shape of the room? How could we shoot in there? I mean, obviously you want to be thinking about camera and gear and all of the stuff that you're going to need to be loading in and out and all the people that are going to need to be in the room. But when you get an opportunity, when you see a room like this that just kind of pulls your eye back, that's something to think about. Yes, the lighting is definitely miserable. And one thing I wanted to talk about was these sheer curtains. A lot of times when you're making something, you'll talk to the DP and they'll be like, we need sheers, we need curtains because we're going to do things to the window. We're going to either be putting light through the window, or we're going to be covering the window up so that it looks like night outside, and they need some way to either kind of like diffuse the light coming through so that you can't tell it's really sourcey, or to just cover that up. So curtains and sheers are a really big part of set deck, and as well as practical lights. So there's two lamps in here. If we go back here, there's a lamp over here. There's lamps in here as well. One of them's off. And often you'll want to just provide your DP with as many practical lights as possible, just so that they can pick and choose. All right. I mean, obviously don't let them overload the room with lamps. That's a little distracting, but it's good to be able to motivate their lighting, because in here, that they have lights off to the side over here. They may have some sort of a fill light over here, just so that you can actually see what's going on here. But if you have a lamp over here, then that's completely motivating any lights that they have coming from that direction. So it doesn't just feel like there's lights coming from nowhere. So you'll often want to think about that with practicals. Then we got this. That's an interesting practical. A lot of times when I'm production designing shorts and stuff, the DP is like pretty clear that they want a regular lamp, either with a tungsten bulb in it, or now something that's really popular is using like those LED color changing bulbs, so that they can just change the color temperature to whatever they want it to be. And usually something like this would not be preferred, but I think because this is giving off so much light, it's probably something that they were into. And you can see that we also got this light shining directly down on him from the top, which kind of gives like something is about to happen right here. If you ever play like video games and especially like modern video games where the storytelling is really complex, it's something that people will always say is like the game will tell you what it wants you to do and where it wants you to go by shining a light in a specific area, or by having something kind of like leading there. And I think films do the same thing. And something in horror that's really interesting is like when you can shine a light on a particular area, tell people exactly where you want them to look, and then something can happen in another area that they don't expect. That's always pretty fun. And obviously you can tell a lot about this guy from his room too. He's got his little TV on his bed. Let's see. What do we got next? Oh, great. So from here, I was just gonna go into some stuff that I did for my last film. So this was the bedroom that we shot in. We shot in my producer's parents' house, and they're angels, and they let me do a bunch of stuff to their bedroom. So say that you were going to shoot something in here for your film, and you wanted to make it feel moody, you wanted to make it feel more spooky, I suppose, or just to have more of a tone that doesn't feel like we're just coming in here to sleep and this is our nice bedroom. You want it to feel like something ominous. What might you do to this bedroom? Less light, definitely. Like you got to be able to control the light coming in. So that's going to mean curtains, whether they're blocking out the windows in G&E or not, even just closing the blinds. Shoot at certain points in the day. Yeah. Take that painting down. Yeah. The painting is like very bright and nice. Put something ominous above the bed. Definitely. Any other ideas of things we can do in here? And this, by the way, this bed was so insanely heavy. There was like no way that I wanted to move this out. And also the bedside tables were like pretty heavy. Yes. Darker bed sheet colors is good. Also because you don't want so much light to be reflected by everything. Yes, personalize with level of cleanliness. So like one of the last things that you do when you're working in set deck is come in and add a life layer. Yes, remove shiny pillow. We don't want shiny things. Generally, they reflect too much light. It's really distracting. But yeah, coming in and adding a life layer. So that's stuff like mail, books, anything that you would have on your bedside table, like contact solution in your contact case, or, you know, a glass of water or a mug of tea. Photos. Yeah. So if you want to, like in the other film and from Jennifer's Body, if you want to try to communicate something about this person, there's maybe a family photo there. Maybe it's a photo of their deceased parent who they were, you know, who died recently and they're very upset about it. Like you can tell a lot of story through the things that people have. Say this is a couple and one side is super neat and organized and the other one is just a mess. You can tell a lot about maybe their relationship and some of the tension that comes. So I'll show you what I did here. I wallpapered it because I was just like, it's got to be darker in here. I added this big scary cross above her head. And then we've got, let's see. We've got these two different practical lights. It's hard to see in this picture, but it was a couple. So they each have, they each have their own light. They each have their own alarm clock and different types of little life layer things on their bedside tables. Like there's some like lotion over here. And I think there's like pills over here. I didn't want to completely get rid of any kind of light colored things on the bed because I wanted the eye to come down here. So we've got the pillows, I changed out the headboard because I was like, no way am I gonna change that bed, but you couldn't even see the headboard on the other one. See, did I use anything from the original photo? Yes, I kept the bedside tables because I was like, these are just gonna fade into the background anyway, and they're super heavy. So I'm just going to put things on top of them that I think works. Took the blinds down because we wanted to be able to let the amount of light in that we wanted from the curtains, added these sheers in the middle, and then these colored curtains on the sides. And then of course changed out all of the bedding. I like to try to add things that have, like, everything has its own texture. So we had lots of different fabrics, and then obviously the wallpaper gives its own texture. And this was, I think overall in this film, and we did the whole house, like there's wallpaper in the whole house. We changed out a fair amount of furniture. Well, not really. I really didn't want to do too much changing out of furniture because people lived here and I knew we were going to have to come a few days before and I didn't want them to have to deal with it. So the only thing that we changed in this room as far as furniture was the headboard. And then downstairs, we left like the kitchen table. We just added some things to it. Mainly, I just kind of kept stuff to the walls, because if you can change things on the walls and then the day of come in and dress all of the life layer and the practical lights, you can change a lot without really having to disturb people's lives who are living there. But yeah, so this is just what I did. It's a lot, but this was my own personal project, so I really wanted to add my own touch to it, and I felt pretty happy with it. Yeah, there's definitely things that I would have changed if I had more money and more time, but I think we changed a lot. So moving on to something else that you can do if you don't always have the opportunity to get into a space before, something that you can do is add another scene. So for my film, This Is Our Home, it's about a mouse infestation. And I really wanted to do something where we could kind of see the mouse's point of view. So it was like pandemic times. I did not have this shot planned out from the beginning of the film, but since the pandemic kind of came along and I was like, well, I'm home, I should do something. So I did some research into what the inner walls of an old pre-war New York City building would look like. And a lot of them were this lath and plaster. So bought some stuff. I think I spent like about $150 on this at Home Depot, just buying these things. And it took me like a week to build. It was just one run in one direction, and then they turn the corner and go in the other direction. And so I did this, and then I kind of dressed it with like dust and cobwebs and roaches and stuff, and had a little section where it looked like there was like a mouse hole coming out, and you could see some wallpaper that looked like the living room. And I'll show you. Thought I had this pulled up, but I guess I didn't. So now you're gonna get to see all of my personal stuff in here. Here we go. And so this is what it ended up looking like. That was one scene. So that ended up only being 18 seconds of the entire project, but I think I get more people talking to me about that part than any other part of the project. It was definitely the most impactful part, and I'm so glad that I had it in there, and it almost didn't exist. So that's one thing that you can do, is like build yourself a little mini set that can have something to do with the film. Like that's something you can think about even after you've shot the film. If you're like, something's missing, I need to have a little bit something extra, what can I do? And I just sort of racked my brain and thought, like, it would be cool to see what the mice are seeing every once in a while and to kind of go into the walls. And I do think that that's going to be different in every film, because obviously not every film is going to have like mice. Yeah, there's something that can be done with like miniature sets, with just a smaller set that you can build for like less money than building a ginormous set. And in most movies, I think there's something. So that's just something to think about. It's another option.